Hi, I'm Amy from Trees Not Teas. We offer race participants the chance to turn down the finisher's tee at the end of a race and plant a tree instead. And today we're very happy to be talking to Renee McGregor. Renee is a sports dietitian and she has written various books on nutrition for athletes, and she is also an ultra runner herself. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
Yes, you do. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
I happen to know that you are a very impressive ultra runner and you have recently completed the Ultra-trail Snowdonia.
Yes.
You tell us about that? How did that go?
So, yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was a really good race. Like, as races go, it was beautiful. And but it was a very different race to anything I've done before. And that, for me to say, is actually quite, I think a lot of my friends have gone, wow, it must have been tough, because I've done, I've raced in Nepal and I've raced in the Swiss Alps and the French Alps. So I've done some really technical type stuff previously, but I've never really run in Snowdonia before. So I was a little bit kind of going in blind. And Damien, who's my coach, most of you will know, is Damien Hall. He had said it's quite a interesting course. It's quite a technical course, but he had no worries about me doing it. No. So I always trust him. So I was like, okay, cool. And we prepared, like we worked really. I trained, I'd say, really hard for this race. I had a couple of weeks where I was not particularly well, but apart from that, I trained really hard. So it was really good. But I guess what was good about this, and I think what was good about my previous experience, which helped me with it, is that sometimes you have to go into a race and learn to change your expectation of yourself within that race. And what was very obvious from very, very early on in UTS is that you don't really run a lot of it. Right. I mean, I would say probably only 10-12 miles were actually properly runnable. You could actually run. And the rest of it was, there's a lot of climbing, as in, I used poles and there's a lot of climbing, but there was also a lot of actual climbing. There was a lot of scrambling. There's one of the climbs is Penny Olwyn. I can never say it properly. I think that's how it says it to a lot of people. And it's 1,000 meters of scrambling up. Yeah. Which, just takes a very long time. And it's pretty like, it can be quite exciting, but equally it was quite frightening at times, because I'm not a very big person. And at moments I was like looking at the slab of rock in front of me going, well, where do I put my foot and where do I put my hand to pull myself up to get up to the next bit? And it was slippery as well, because we'd had so much rain. So yeah, it was a very interesting course. It is the most technical course I have ever done. Yeah. And Damien and I were like, we had a discussion about, he never sets me a target. He just goes, go and enjoy it. And that's kind of what I always do. But then subconsciously, I think I always set myself a target. And I'd said that I would be happy somewhere between, I'd be happy within 12 hours. That had been my kind of thing. And it was also, and then I was like, but really, I want to finish in the light. I don't want to finish in the dark. That was kind of, and obviously he'd forgotten that this race was now in September, and obviously it was getting darker, lighter, like earlier. And I was like, oh, I've shot myself in the foot there now. But I did. I finished in 10 hours 48, I think, and in the light. And I was very, very happy. So it was a really, really tough race that you had to dig quite deep. It was hard because the visibility on the top of the ridges there wasn't any. It was an interest, like I said, it was a very interesting race. It was very mentally probably more grueling than physically grueling in that respect. Really, you had to dig deep and concentrate and focus and just keep managing your outcome and your expectations, which I think is a really important skill set to have as a runner, because especially an ultra runner, because races generally don't go to plan. Very few races go to plan, no matter how much preparation you've done, no matter how much you can practice your fueling and practice your race pace and practice everything else. At the end of the day, you can't control the elements. You can't control how you're going to feel the day. You can't control what else might be happening around you on that day and how that might affect you. So I think being able to manage that has been it's been a big learning curve for me. Like over the years, with all the racing I've done, it's been something that I've really valued in learning. And I hope that other people will also learn from it, rather than beat themselves up about the fact that they didn't quite get what they wanted.
Or go exactly how they're planned.
Or whatever. You only really ever learn from races that are tough.
Yes. Yeah. That does sound very tough. I sort of see what you mean now about, not actually that much running involved and all these other skills being pulled into play. My goodness. Obviously, as a sports dietitian, you would have been thinking about your own nutrition for the race. So what do you do on race day? What do you do nutrition-wise?
So I've got a plan that works for me. But that said, on UTS day, it didn't go to plan.
Right.
So normally what I do is I tend to rely on liquid energy more, just because a lot of the races I do are mountain races. So I'm usually holding poles, so it can be quite difficult to eat. So I tend to rely on liquid energy. And then I do top up with maybe gels, maybe bars. Often peanut M&Ms are my favorite, so I'll eat a lot of peanut M&Ms. Depending on the timing of the year, like if it's cool enough, I'll probably have a Snickers in there as well. I mean, I do really look forward to chocolate, so it's kind of like it's something that I will always try and have. But interestingly, on UTS, the drinking was fine, as in the energy drinks were great, and every checkpoint I went to, I filled back up, put more sports powder in, and that was all good. But because it was so much climbing, because there was so much scrambling up and down, it was really difficult to eat and drink in kind of regular pattern. And I did, I'm always very conscious. So I was like, well, I probably haven't had anything for 20 minutes or so, right? Grab a gel, quickly have that when I can, or or throw some peanut M&Ms in my face, or whatever it might be. But it was when we got to checkpoint 3, which was, where was that? That was probably, I think it was like 12K from the end, something like that, or 16K from the end. That was it. I had 10 miles to go. So 16K from the end. And it was 5 o'clock in the evening, and we'd started at 9.
Right.
And I suddenly realized I was really hungry. Like properly hungry. And I was like, oh, I'm starving. And I got to this checkpoint, and I was like looking at all the food, and I was like, I don't know what I want. Like there's so much here, and I don't know. And then this lady, she was very, very lovely. She goes, what is it you fancy? I was like, I don't know. I just don't know. Some sandwiches. And I said, oh yeah, that'll be great. So I had some cheese and pickle sandwiches, and to be honest, it was the best thing. It was exactly what I needed. So I guess, although I do have a plan with nutrition, and I'm very much about making sure that I'm hitting the amount of carbs that I need per hour, and understanding what format that needs to take in for it to be useful for me. I am also very much driven by appetite and what I want, because I think particularly in ultra racing and that kind of race, where you are doing a lot of hiking and climbing, and you're not running hard all the time, you can probably get away with a lot more solid food. Whereas if I was doing a more runnable race, so earlier in the year I ran Ultra X's Spring Trail series, and that was 50K in the South Downs, so it was all runnable. Like it wasn't a hiking race, it was a running race. So there I very much do rely on more gels and drinks, because I know that that's easily digestible. I don't have to think about it. It's not going to upset my stomach. I probably rarely eat solid food in those kinds of races, but also it's a lot shorter. I'd finish that in under 6 hours. So it's not quite the same. So I think it's adjusting for what you're doing, terrain you're on, and I think another thing to probably highlight, particularly for women, is that it changes as well depending on where you are in your menstrual cycle. There are certain times of the month where I definitely know I need more carbohydrate, and I need more, and my sugar levels will go up and down a lot more. And then there are other times of the month where it's not as relevant. I mean, I still take it, but it's definitely not as relevant. So So I think understanding that, and again, hydration is affected, your salt balance is affected. So all these things are really important to be able to appreciate and understand. And there's no, so from the scientific point of view, there's no clear cut, you know, on day 12 you must do this, which I think a lot of people want. It's actually
clear cut.
It's actually about tracking your own cycle and your own symptoms. And so I've been doing that now for the last 3 or 4 years, and through that I've now understood my own cycle. And I know that there are certain points where I need more than just a banana before I go out, even for a 6-mile run. And then there are certain points where actually a banana's fine. And
no, I agree. And that's something that generally people haven't been monitoring that much or aware of that much, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I think people forget that our bodies are so intricate and they're so tightly controlled and managed internally.
Right.
And I think particularly as runners as well, we often lose sight of the appreciation we should have for our body and what it can do for us. And, you know, from my point of view, obviously a big part of my job is looking at athletes' hormones and bloods and making sure they are adapting to their training, they are adapting to their nutrition, you know, things are recovering well, they are ready to start their next block. So obviously I have a much better understanding of internal systems.
How that works.
And so I'm, you know, it's definitely something that I use as guidance and information. I wouldn't say it determines exactly, but it does help. And I think, you know, people often see running as something that they can get away with without fueling, or if I don't eat, then it won't upset my stomach, or almost prefer to sort of feel like it's better to come back and earn that food. You know, I feel like there's a real move towards earning your food, which I find fascinating, because as a human being, the cost of living, just, you know, the energy cost of living is more than the energy cost of exercise, you know. So if you think about it from just a purely scientific equation point of view, we know that 70 to 80% of our energy requirements come from biological processes that are going on within our body. So that is keeping us alive. That's before we do anything else.
Wow.
Right. And then there's an extra sort of 20% based on digestion. So up to 20%, it can be 10 to 20%, depending on the kinds of food you eat. We actually use energy to digest our food. So we're actually really, really inefficient. Right. As humans, we're very inefficient. And then you have the cost of movement, which is additional. Right. So, and movement being our daily movements, so walking up and down the stairs, you know, running after the kids, whatever that might be, and then training. So unless you're an elite athlete kind of level, most likely that percentage of energy requirement that you need for your exercise is maybe up to about 30, perhaps 40% if you're a serious recreational athlete. Elite athletes, yes, you're looking, maybe it will provide another 50 to 60% on top of what they already have. But this is where people get really, like, they don't realize it. You should never feel like you have to earn your food.
You need it anyway.
You need it to survive.
Right.
So, you know, when people say, oh, I find it really difficult to eat on my rest day, or, you know, I don't know what I should have. And I'm like, well, I tend to eat more on my rest day.
Right.
Because generally it's the day between two usually quite tough days, not always, but I'm usually active. So, you know, and I'm like, so I'll still be recovering from one and I'll be ready for the next one. And the other thing people forget is when you do a hard effort, whether that's a longer run or whether that's like a tempo kind of hill reps or session or some description, that can take up to 3 days in your body to recover from. Like if you're looking at muscular recovery, if we did a biopsy of people's muscles, it could take up to 3 days to recover.
Wow. So it's nowhere near as instant as we're imagining.
Not at all. And this is the problem, is that humans just I don't know, I feel like humans have lost sight of the appreciation of what we are,
right,
in terms of the mechanics of who we are.
mm-hmm.
And I think because of the way modern society is, particularly, there's this sense of entitlement and this sense of need for everything to be instant,
Right.
like, even with training, people will kind of go, well, I've done 12 weeks now, so why am I not where I want to be? And it's like, well, it takes a year. You might see some improvements in the first 12 weeks, and then you might see more improvements in the next 24 weeks, but it doesn't just stop. You keep improving and you keep changing. And I find it quite interesting, this kind of real black and white thinking that only if you do X is that going to happen. But we know that life is not permanent, and we're constantly changing and moving. And it's the same with us as humans. So,
yes, it's a really interesting way of looking at it. Most of the things you've just said then hadn't sort of occurred to me previously. Yes, I mean, so when you are looking at your fueling, then is it? I mean, so if we're trying to think a little bit about how we can do this in a slightly more sustainable kind of way, I noticed you were saying when you were on your race about your sort of filling up your bottles with your powders and things. So these are obviously things that you're carrying with you anyway. I think something that often can happen as well with runners and their fueling, we can get into a lot of disposable packaging and this kind of thing that we'd really, really like to be looking at. Have you made any progress in that sort of area? Do you feel like your nutrition is relatively sustainable, or is it something you're still working on?
I think it's difficult at the moment to be truly sustainable, because running fuel does get a bit sticky, so you do need an element of packaging.
Yes.
But like, for example, some of the gels and stuff I use are with a company called Activeroot, and they have created a little plastic refillable and reusable tube that you can basically make your gel up in and carry that with you. So you're not then just using the packaging, that I'm throwing away. So that's definitely something that I tend to utilize. I do tend to, buy bigger containers of things and then decant, so that I'm not like, there's only the one big package rather than lots of different packages.
What would you be decanting into when you're sort of thinking about carrying that with you?
So I've got these reusable, sealable bags, like sandwich bags type things. But I just find that because you can use them again and again and again and again, basically. So again, it's not completely sustainable and biodegradable, but
better than disposable.
It's better than just a one-off, or I'm done now. So I tend to do things like that. I tend to always carry those sorts of things. I've got like a phone protector as well now, that is, you can just, instead of, again, I think people often just use a sandwich bag and then forget about it the next time, but I've actually got an actual proper pocket that I use, which means it's there all the time, and it's not, again, something I'm having to throw out, even after a few uses. So from that point of view, I do my best. I guess it is difficult. I think where I try and make more impact is in my day-to-day eating, rather than probably on on kind of
running day.
I mean, I guess I do, I'm not focused on pure sports nutrition food. So like, I think even that, like, then you can be more mindful about, do you choose something that's, recyclable packaging, or do you choose something that you can, I guess you don't want to choose things that are too bulky. You've got to think about all the kind of aspects of it. But I mean, I think day to day, one of the things that I'm a vegetarian anyway. I have been my whole life, not because of sustainability, just I have been always. And and from my point of view, like, and I've done a lot of reading around sustainable eating, and one of my friends, Ryan Andrews, he's actually he's an American dietitian, but his whole research and his whole area of expertise is in sustainable living, sustainable eating. And he's just written a really good book. It's an ebook, but he's written a book called Swole, SWOLE. And it's really interesting because I think, again, media, headlines, evangelism, we hear so much, and I think we can get kind of pulled into, oh, I have to eat like this if I'm going to make an impact on the environment.
Right.
And actually what he's saying is that it's not always necessarily about what you eat, it's about how you eat. And actually, in terms of trying to find food that are in season, is really important. Like that's a really, and from a nutritional point of view, that's so much better, because nutritionally we always encourage people to eat in season, because we know that they're going to get more vitamins and minerals from that. So of course you encourage. So like now, this time of year, I love autumn because you get all loads of apples, and you get like stewed apple, and it's just, you know you're going to get real good benefits from like the antioxidants and the vitamins from that. So whereas I probably wouldn't eat apples in the summer,
right? Okay.
Or even this time of year now, like when satsumas come in, and like I won't buy berries now because they're not season. So I'll try and be really seasonal in my choice of food. And then the other thing he was saying is the transportation. That's where a lot of the impact is made. So again, I know there's a real focus on meat production and the cost and the CO2 emissions, and we can't get away from that. That is a problem, 100%. But again, you also have to look at the fact that if you eat locally, so if you were to find, we're very lucky in the UK because we have loads of farmers markets and loads of farm shops, and so the farm is, the animal is there at its source, and it's then in the farm shop. So in terms of production costs and transport costs, is very, very minimal. So trying to buy as sustainably as you can, trying to buy as local as you can is really, really critical. And the other thing I would like people to can think about, and this again is just informed information, this is not telling people what they should do, but one thing we have to be mindful of is that when you eat a piece of meat, and I don't, as I've just said, but when you eat a piece of meat, you probably eat 6 ounces, right, at the most, in terms of in terms of providing satiety, and it being kind of something that makes you feel full and gives you the nutrients you need. The cost of CO2 emissions for that one piece of meat is actually a lot less than the cost of importing, say, avocados from Mexico. Right. And so you have to start thinking about, or even the cost of producing soy milk. So you have to start understanding it's not as simple as we should all go plant-based. We should all be trying to eat more plant-based, because actually it's better for our guts and it's better for our health in general. But that's not to say we all need to be 100% plant-based and that there's no other way of eating. Right. The other thing I always like to point out is it's not just about food. Food is one area we can impact, of course it is, but actually, is there any point in going plant-based if you still drive around in an SUV, if you still go on holiday 4 or 5 times a year, if you still buy fast fashion? I think you have to question your whole lifestyle. If you really want to make an impact on the environment and you want to be sustainable, you have to consider every aspect of what you're doing. So, we try and be a one-car family. We don't travel very much, and like I've got to travel for work next month, and that is something I have to do. So it's something I will do, but where possible, I'll always try and find different routes or try and do it online or whatever happens. I'll do what I can, because now we can. And in terms of clothing, I always buy secondhand. Right. I rarely buy new clothes. So, and actually my daughters are the same now, which is great, because that's just something they've, they're just like, oh, we'll just go to the charity shop, mum, and have a look and see. So I think, like, before we can start becoming evangelistic about eating in a certain way that's going to help the environment, we have to think about our overall picture, the whole picture, because we know that actually it is fast fashion is one of the biggest contributors.
Absolutely, exactly. Which is why we're here at Trees Not Teas. Exactly that. Yeah, this terrible sort of overproduction of these very cheap, damaging materials. Yeah.
Totally. And it's something that I think is often, especially like with social media and influencers and their, I'm doing this for the environment, it's much better for the environment, and you're like, yeah, but how many items of clothing have you just bought? Or so.
Yes, absolutely. Take the whole picture on board. Yeah, thank you again. Some really, really interesting things to think about. I think what I've sort of learned, not being much of an ultra runner myself, but that the ultra running events industry, they do tend to they have been slightly ahead of the game in terms of having reusable cups and this kind of thing. But obviously, I think some of the more like road-based, like broader kind of events are a little bit behind with that. Are there any differences that you would like to see happening in the running event industry as a whole with regards to thinking about how we can be more sustainable?
Well, I love the fact, so I'm nutrition lead for UltraX, so I do tend to do quite a lot of their races anyway, but I love the fact that actually you get to plant a tree instead of having a t-shirt, so the Trees Not Teas. I love that. I think I just think that should become universal across all racing. I think, I don't see why we need to have t-shirts. I mean, sometimes the technical t-shirts are fine because you can rewear them and they're used
for a very special race.
Exactly. So that's something I definitely think. I think, like you said, ultra runners generally are reusing water bottles anyway, because we tend to have our packs and we always have to carry a cup. So, I think that's brilliant. And in fact, we had a local race before the pandemic, because I'm in Bradford and Avon and over the hills. And that was really lovely to see because they did it. It was only a 12.5K race, but they get, at the end of the race, instead of getting a medal, you got a little recyclable cup.
Right.
And that's what they gave you your water in at the end. And I thought that was such a brilliant idea because it was, I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I mean, I know a lot of people do like medals, but I don't know what to do with them all. So I'm not fussed about medals, really. Like, it's nice to get a souvenir from a race to say you've done it, but and I wonder if the next thing would be something about numbers, because again, there's a lot of paper waste there, isn't there, when you put your number on, and and I wonder if there's something we can do. I'd love to see something else. Like in Ironmans, they kind of brand you, don't they? They do, yes. There's something like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether that would work in running, but
having a look at those.
Yeah. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. No, that's another thing. I think I have seen somewhere where you can get your number has got seeds implanted in it, and then you can then plant the paper with the seeds in it. That's quite a nice. Cool. Yeah. Right. So you did this unbelievably tough sounding Ultra-trail Snowdonia. Did you just want to put your feet up, or is there something on the horizon for you again now?
It's quite funny. So I don't really know. Damien and I we have our I usually finish a race and go, right, I don't want to think about a race now. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, right, what am I doing next? And so we're kind of at that point, because I think it's 3 weeks. It's been just over 3 weeks since UTS, and I'm definitely kind of consider what do I want to do next. But interestingly, I'm quite tired, if I'm honest. And it's been a really good year. And it's been a really good year of running. Like, I have consistently run well, I've consistently trained well, and I think sometimes you have to stop and appreciate that and consolidate that. So I think most likely I probably won't race again this year, but I've got a couple of ideas for next year. So there's another UltraX Winter Trail series, which is going to be in Brecon at the end of January. So I'll definitely do that, because Brecon is one of my general training grounds anyway. So I'm definitely going to do that one. I was really hoping, so before the pandemic, I signed up to go and do another Nepalese race, which is the Mustang Trail race, because I just love being out there. I love those races. I just love everything about it. So that obviously has been postponed 2 years in a row now, because it tends to be in April.
Okay.
So we're still waiting to hear whether it will happen April 2022.
Yeah.
If it does, I guess that'll be my focus.
Yes.
And so that will be a big thing. And then there is a race in June that I'm down to do. It's a big race. It's a scary race for me. So we'll see. We'll see if that goes ahead or not. But that is on the cards.
Okay.
But I you know, Amy, I don't tend to race very often. I'm not one of these people that needs to race constantly to prove myself. I tend to choose races based on where they are, because I like to go explore new places. And also, you know, potentially if anybody else, any of my friends want to do it, because it could be quite a fun weekend away. And you know, so with UTS we went away, there was a group of us that went away, and it was really fun. So I don't tend to, I know a lot of people race all the time. I don't tend to do that because one, life doesn't let me. You know, like you're asking about the rest of this year, like for me, I know November and December is really busy for me every single year, and I've been asked to talk at a lot of big events over the next few months, and so that takes it out of me. Absolutely. I have to take a slight step back from training over this winter period. And just accept that that's okay, you know. And like I said, Damien and I talk about it all the time. You know, I think one of his biggest challenges is my work schedule, because it's very, very busy. It's you know, and now that the pandemic is hopefully behind us, getting close to being behind us, things are definitely opening up. You know, I'm spending the next 2 days down in London with England National Ballet, because that's one of my contracts. But as we run into Christmas, they're going to be in full performance mode, so that's really busy and really intense. You know, I've been asked to talk at some quite big events over the next few months, so I just tend to take it easy over the winter months and kind of, you know, I'll probably race 2 or 3 times a year and think that's good.
That's enough. Yeah, definitely sounds like enough to me. I'm tired listening to it. And so just work-wise, you've told us a little bit about that's some amazing sounding stuff that you've got coming up, but I also happen to know that you are in the process of bringing out another book, if we could talk a little bit about that. So you've already got, and I forgot to mention this is the book that we're going to be doing the giveaway of. This is Renee's book, Training Food, which is absolutely brilliant, and I use myself. So we're going to be doing a giveaway of this on our social media, so keep your eye out for that. But as well, you do have a new book coming out next year, don't you?
Yes. So it's been really brilliant. Like so my last book was Orthorexia, and that was back in 2017. So that was a long time ago now. So I was definitely ready. Again, I wrote 4 books really quickly. Wow. And I was a bit like, whoa, I'm tired. I just need a break from writing. And so have had a few years out from writing, and it was really good to get back into it this year. So this new book, we haven't settled on a title. We think we know what the title is, so I won't say the title because I don't know it's going to be that. But this new book the concept of it was to help people make informed choices about their nutrition around their training. And so that was kind of getting them to understand around food choice, like why we choose the foods we do, understanding a bit more about human behavior, like what drives us to choose food, like, you know, upbringing. Like, so it's got a bit more of a behavioral tone to it as well, but it's still very Renee style. It's still very practical. Like there's lots of practical tips in there. But also what I wanted to do was I wanted to highlight some of the populations that often get missed in sports nutrition particularly. So there's a very big section on females and female athletes going through their lifespan, including menopause, because I know it's a big area where there's not a huge amount of research, but actually because we work with a lot of perimenopausal and postmenopausal women in our clinics, we've learned quite a lot through working with them. So there's some sort of information, observations we've seen, and some of the new science that is coming out. I want to talk about the older athlete, because believe it or not, you're an older athlete once you hit over 35. So so I want to talk about the older athlete and actually how that changes per decade, and the things that you need to consider and how you can maintain your performance, and what changes you might need to make to your diet according to that. So there's a whole section on the older athlete. And then the third section is very, very close to my heart, because it's a section around the diverse athlete. So bringing in the whole picture around ethnic minority and trying to encourage a little bit more equality and diversity, I guess, in sport as well. And you know, it was very fascinating doing the research on that section, because having lived it, sometimes you sort of go, yeah, but maybe that's just my experience. But when you start reading the research with the numbers, you're like, no wonder this is why I've experienced this. And you know, it's really sad. It made me really sad that actually the smallest representation in sport is Asian women.
Right. Oh.
So it felt really, really important to write this section from my point of view, because that shouldn't be the case, and it doesn't have to be the case. And I hope that I can be a role model in that.
Absolutely.
But I think it is really sad to me that it is the case. So yeah, it's definitely a section that I've written from the heart, and I've made that very clear that, you know, it is quite a personal kind of angle to it, and equally the book does start off quite personal as well, like about my relationship with food, because I think the question that people always ask me, you know, and so which actually, believe it or not, Amy, was the hardest bits I found to write in the whole book, because I don't really like talking about myself very much.
I understand.
Writing about myself, so it was a bit like, this is quite hard.
Exposing.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope people like it. I really, really hope people like it. The idea is not to be evangelistic. It's not to be like, you must do this. It's never about getting it right. It's about, if you want to do this, then this is the best way to get balance. And these are some of the pitfalls you should just be aware of. They might happen to you, they might not. And also this approach might work for you for 2 years. It might work for you for 5 years, but it might not, and that's okay as well. And it's okay. You don't have to kind of just feel like you failed or anything if something hasn't worked for you. So it's about giving people all the information in one place, and then they can go away and make the decision that's based for them.
I mean, it sounds amazing, because we're so absolute information overload, aren't we? But we're never quite sure how reliable that information is. To have a voice like yours that we know is, this is, you know, we know that this is the right information here, then, and then exactly go away and make your choices.
So I really hope people enjoy it. I've really enjoyed writing it. And with Vertebrate Publishing, who've been brilliant. So I'm really excited about what people make of it. And
when are you hoping that's going to be coming out?
It should be out, we're thinking March, April time next year. So
we might have to have you on again and do another giveaway when that one comes out.
Definitely, I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. I'm just going to hold your book up again one more time, so keep your eye out for the giveaway of this fantastic book here. And really, thank you ever so much. It's been genuinely really interesting talking to you. Thank you so much.
I'm a big fan of you guys and what you're doing, so I'm always happy to chat.
Thank you so much, and speak again soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Bye.